Hey everyone, Georgetown Soaps here. I thought I would do a quick video. Well, actually, it's not going to be that quick, but I am making cold process embeds. And I know a lot of people like to use melt and pour for embeds because it's quick, it's easy, it's literally down and dirty. Your embeds can be done in 20 minutes flat and you're good to go. I don't like melt and pour. It tends to sweat a lot and it's super humid and super hot, and I do the majority of my sales at outdoor markets and venues. And I like to leave all my stuff in the car, and if I left it in the car, it would overheat and it would melt. It can get up to, 100 here in the DC area, plus it's so hot, it's humid. Not to mention, I just don't like having a super long label, and you've got to add all those extra ingredients for the melt and pour. So I just figure, let me use my regular recipe. So it does take a little bit longer, but for me, it works, and it works better than if I tried to do the melt and pour embeds. So just personal preference, but thought I would just show you guys how I'm doing them. You can see I've got a gingerbread mold in the back, and if you're looking for this mold, I will put a link to the Amazon page. You can order it directly from there. And so I've gone ahead, and I actually don't do fragrance in my embeds. I find it's just a little bit too much work to kind of measure out, figure all that out. And what I do is I tend to do 1 pound batches. So I'll make a 1 pound batch of my regular soap, and then I'll just color it and pour the embeds, and I'm good to go. So that's just kind of how I prefer to do it. I'm making my gingerbread embeds. I've already done my gingerbread soap video, so you'll see these in that video. But super easy to do. It's pretty quick. I mean, I probably should have underpoured a couple of these, but for me, it's just super easy, super quick. It's probably the same amount of time. The only difference to make them, only difference is that melt and pour, you can pop them in the fridge and they're ready pretty quick. These you've got to kind of leave in the mold for about a day or so. But if you plan ahead, you're good to go. And I try to do them, now I'm trying to do them more in advance. So maybe I'll just make 3 or 4 pounds of my various embeds, do multiple colors. You can see this one I actually had started out, and this was a 2 pound batch of soap. So you see I've still got some in the container with the stick blender. Challenge is that it ended up getting a little too thick on me, even without the fragrance, just by sitting there and the amount of time it takes to pour the embed molds. So I did decide 1 pound batches are typically a little easier. You don't have the challenge with the batter getting too thick. But, I guess I should have worked faster. So I'll let you guys finish watching this, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I got my gingerbreads ready, and now I'm just pouring the rest of it into just a random mold I had. I'll probably just give this soap to my daughter to play with in the bathtub. It's not quite enough. I obviously I just mismeasured by a little bit, and honestly, I don't measure out my embeds. I looked at the container and I guessed, and I got pretty darn close if this was all that I had left over of the brown. And I am not going to dump it in the trash. I'm going to make a little soap out of it, and I'm sure my daughter, she's almost 2, she will enjoy having a little pumpkin soap that she can use with her hand. So anyway, I'll be right back. Alright, and now I am prepping to make my raspberry and blueberry embed molds. These are super, super cute. Again, you can find the link for these in the Amazon link below in the comments. And I obviously don't want it to accelerate too much, so I just take this little frother thing to stir in the mica. I could probably just add a little bit of mica to the oil, pre-mix that in, stir it in. I don't know. To me, I find the little frother thing is pretty easy and efficient. So here I am. I'm just gonna, I think this was the Midnight Purple, and so I'm gonna use this. This is going to be for the blueberry molds, and you can see super cute. I don't get too worried about it being messy. You just kind of pour it in, it's gonna overflow, and then you just kind of use the spatula to move enough into the right container. So, and again, these super small. If you watch my berries and cream video, I use these in it. They're literally the size of an actual blueberry. So if you see that video, you'll see what they actually look like in the end. I'm going to keep pouring these out, and I'll be right back. Let's go. Okay, so I had a little bit left of the purple, and I didn't want to make purple raspberries, so I decided I would jump on the mermaid bandwagon and use these. The challenge with these molds is the mermaid molds, they're not really that thick, and so the cold process soap, even though I just let it sit for 2 days, it was still pretty bendy and flexible, and I had a lot of the tails break off. So I can still use them. They're just a little bit harder to work with. So this might actually be a mold that you kind of have to use melt and pour with. Just kind of no other good way to get them out evenly. My 2-year-old daughter, almost 2-year-old daughter, had a lot of fun breaking them up for me. She literally would take them and snap them in half and laugh. So need to keep them out of her hands, but I kind of didn't care because they didn't come out as expected. It's a little bit harder to get this in the mold, but it was also a little bit thicker, and it's set up a little bit. So with these, I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to try and see if I can add a little bit more sodium lactate to these to get them to be a little bit thicker. I'm not sure if that's, or thicker, harder. See if that might help a little bit. Maybe add some salt. But they came out super cute, and again, I can use probably 60% of them. The other 40% I just can't really use because they did break, but some of them I can just kind of push them back together in the soap, so it's not that big of a deal. They're just not, for the people who make the mermaid soaps with the tail sticking in the air, I don't think this is going to work cold process wise, so you might need to try the good old melt and pour. But anyway, I thought I would try it and just see what happened.
Let's go. Let's go.
Alright, and now I've got my raspberry mold out. You can see that this definitely thickened up. So again, this was the 2-pound batch. I probably just, with mixing the colors and pouring it, I probably just do need to stick with the 1-pound batch just so it's a little bit easier. But super cute raspberry mold. Super cute. Loved it. And I love how they come out. The detail is really, like, very intricate detail. So they're very nice. And I think this mold maybe has 20 pieces. I think it's about 20 molds. So I just, because it was thick, I just went slabbered it all on there. The mold does clean up pretty easily. I was a little disappointed though. The color, excuse me, the color did kind of stay on the mold, so my mold is kind of stained this purple or, you know, deep pink, but it's nothing I can't work with.
Turn up. Let's go. Let's go.
Alright, and so by the time I got done pouring the rest of these embed molds, it was pretty thick, so it's not impossible, and they weren't terrible. The pumpkins, the faces came out fine. The backs are just a little bit bumpy and not perfect, so they're definitely usable. I'm going to use them in one of my Halloween soaps, but again, I would just probably do 1 pound batch in the future, just so that it's a little bit easier to pour these and I'm not kind of pressured for time. But anyway, I hope you guys like to see how I make my embeds. You can definitely do them cold process.
Turn up. Let's go.